Last Monday, 29th July 2026, we all woke up and saw the devastating flood at Accra, Ghana. Few days later, another flood happened in Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Togo, and other African countries. And all these floods we've seen on social media where the water carried fish, catfish specifically, to people's homes, gutters, and roadside. And whilst people were catching them and jubilating and shouting that God has given them free fish or free meal, and they were happy. As a fish farmer, I wasn't happy. I was worried. I was worried because I was asking myself, where are these catfish coming from? In as much as some people are jubilating for getting free fish from God, a fish farmer somewhere were crying for losing his or her entire fish. That is not to say that all the fish that we saw were from fish farmers. But in as much as most of the fish are or were from river streams and other natural water bodies, some of them were actually from fish farmers. And this is disheartening. And you will not want that to happen to you because this is big financial loss. And in this video, I'm going to take you through the effects of flood on fish farmers. I will not stop there. I'll also give you prescription as to how to prevent your farm from getting flooded. And more importantly, I'll also give you tips. If you have experienced flood already, what to do. So that if you are not able to prevent, or even after you provide your measures and you're still able to get flood, what do you do to maintain that? So this video is so important as a fish farmer to watch, because I am not just giving you what happened on the flood day, but I'm also telling you how to prevent that. After all, when a frog in front falls into a pit, others behind take caution. If you watch this and you learn the lessons, you will prevent your farm from getting flood. If you're watching me for the first time, my name is Abdulaziz Issa. I have a bachelor degree. I'm a fish farmer, and I'll be helping fish farmers like you and I to grow our fish. If you're not subscribed to this channel, please do so. And let's delve in details. The number one and the biggest effects of flood for fish farmers is massive fish loss. Let's look at this. If you have stock, let's say 10,000 fish in your pond, and the place gets flooded, and 5,000 fish escape and move away. That 5,000 fish, assuming they are for market size or they're out of market size, and the market size, let's say 1 kilogram of catfish is 40 cedis, and they were up to market size. If you multiply that 5,000 fish that you have lost by 40, then you have lost over or almost 200,000 Ghana cedis. This is huge amount. Now, your months of investment has gone like that. The feed costs, your labor costs, your electricity costs, your water costs, all these things have gone wasted. This is a massive loss to farmers. Another effect of flooding is that it breaks the embankment, the banks of your fish pond, most especially earthen ponds. Earthen ponds get flooded the most, but not only earthen ponds, others. I will explain more for you. But most often, earthen ponds are getting flooded because it is dark on the ground. So the banks are supporting that. You need to make the banks a bit higher. When it breaks as a result of the rain and the banks breaks and the water is moving away, then it moves away with the fish. And that is the breaking of the or the collapse of the embankment that I talk about. Another effect of flood is disease outbreak. When the flood goes, whether it carries your fish away or not, but the water that passes through your pond or that moves to your pond, sometimes the water moves with chemicals, it moves with fungi, bacteria, it carries oil and other infectants that can pollute your fish pond. When the water carries these things into your pond, the disease can outbreak and then your water or your fish can die because it can spread around. Apart from this bringing these things and disease outbreak, it can also pollute the water. And when it pollutes the water, you are likely to lose all your fish. Another important thing you need to also consider is that when it is flooded, the water can also carry wild fish into your pond. You might be saying, oh, Abdulaziz, this is addition. If it brings them into my pond, then I have gotten extra fish. You might be thinking so, but you are wrong. Because the wild fish are very aggressive, especially catfish. So when they come into the pond, most often they are likely to be bigger than the pond or the fish that you have in your pond. So they are going to cannibalize them or they are going to cause a lot of stress for them. And if you're not lucky, you will rather lose your stock fish. Meanwhile, they are even more. So don't be thinking that when it brings them into your fish pond, it is addition. You will rather predate or you will rather eat or consume or cannibalize your stockfish. And that brings me to another point of the water bringing predators into your pond. When flood happens, it carries a lot of things around. It can bring snakes, it can bring lizards, it can bring tortoise, and all things that feed on fish, especially juveniles or fingerlings or the small fish. So when the water brings such into your pond, at the end of the day, they are going to predate on your fish. They are going to eat or they are going to consume them. And the bad thing is that you might not even be aware that there are predators in your pond. Later, by the time you find out, almost all your fish will be gone. And this will also be financial loss. Another effect of flood is that when the water comes, it can also wet your feet, especially if you put your feet on the floor or if it is not on high ground. This has ever happened to me. There was a time flood or water entered our storeroom and our feet, when we pack it, those on the bottom, even though it was even on pellets, but the bottom feet got wet. We brought them out, we dried them, and then we carried them back. We thought we were done. Only when we were using it, then we got to the bottom feet and then we noticed that those feet were spoiled. And that was as the result of the water. So this can happen to you. It can get your feet spoiled and that can also be financial loss to you. Flood can also damage your fish pond. Look at the tapoli pond. And when it is flooded and the water is running, sometimes it carries sharp objects. It carries woods. It carries items. So the water can bring those items and hit your pond and it can get breakdown. Tapoli pond can easily be perforated with such objects. So this can damage your pond. Or it can also force the tapoli pond to collapse and you will lose the fish inside that. Another disadvantage or effect of flood is that flood can also cause low oxygen in your pond as it carries debris. It brings mud and dump them in your pond. This results to low oxygen, leading to your fish suffocating and dying. So these things are effects of flood on your farm. If you have watched so far, kindly subscribe to this channel. Now let's talk about how to prevent your farm from getting flooded or flood. First and foremost, choose the best site for your fish farm. Before you put up your fish farm, don't just choose any land. Make sure that when it rains, that place is free from water getting flooded or running through. So the site selection is the number one thing you need to do. So make sure that you observe that place during rainy season to ensure that the place is not a waterlogged area or the water at that place is something you can easily control. So choosing the right site or location is very paramount. The second thing you need to also consider is that ensure you put big embankment. For instance, if you are constructing earthen pond, make sure that it is not flat ground. Put banks so that if water is running, the water will not pass through the pond. So you can control water that comes in and out. That way you will be safe. And the third thing you should do is that protect or strengthen the embankment or the water banks or the pond banks. And to strengthen that, make sure you ramp it and make it hard. Also make sure that you plant aquatic or you plant plants or grass around it. There are certain grasses that keep the soil firm. When you find natural water bodies, the banks, you see those grasses, God didn't put them there for nothing. It's also serving as it's strengthening the banks of the river. So you can also do that to your fish pond and make the banks strong so that when it rains and water enters, or even if water doesn't enter, it will not break down easily. Another important thing you should do to prevent your place getting flooded is putting overflow pipes or overflow outlet in your ponds. This run across either tapole pond or concrete pond or earthen pond, whatever type of pond. Put overflow pipes so that when water is entering, it is raining, you are not around, or even if you are not around, then the rainwater is entering. Then when it gets to that level, the water will automatically flow out so that it will not get full where the fish can swim along and run down. So when you put the overflow pipes, it prevents the water from overflowing for fish to pass through. But also make sure that you put nets or you seal the overflow pipes with mesh or something that can prevent the fish from passing through so that the water can pass through but not the fish. So that when it is overflowing, they can pass away. The water can pass, leaving the fish. If you don't do that, the fish are likely to also pass through the overflow pipe and move out. So if you do this, you can minimize flood in your place. Another important thing you should also do is that to prevent flood is make sure that you divert all floating water away from the pond. If it is raining, most of the water is flowing. As it is flowing, make sure that you divert the water so that it doesn't pass through your pond or your farm to leave more water or to carry your fish away. Divert it from the pond. Another important thing you should also do to avoid flood effects is when you're storing your feed, store it above the ground or store it in the waterproof rooms or areas so that when it rains, water will not get access to the feed because the feed doesn't like water. Once water enters, it spoils, and this is financial loss to you. Also, make sure that you protect electrical equipment, your pumps, your generators, your sockets, and all these things. Protect them so that when it rains, water doesn't get access to them. One of the effects of the recent flood at Accra and other places was that some people were electrified because they tried to turn off their sheet. As they tried to turn off their sheet in the water, they were shocked and they were killed. This can happen to you as a farmer. So make sure that when you're putting up your sockets, your electrical gadgets, they are at a place water will not have access to them. You can also harvest your fish early to avoid flooding. If you don't understand, what I'm trying to say is that assuming your fish is your fish are always at market size, and then you know that water we are in the rainy season or the weather forecast they are telling you that there's going to be a heavy rain, and you know that your fish are already at market size, sell them and you are free. And also make sure that you always check weather forecast to be sure that when it's going to rain heavily, you will know and you expect the rain. Then you can provide measures to do that. Now, having done all this, there's even still possibility that you can still experience flood. When you experience flood, what then do you have do? What do you do? Please, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, comment, share more. Let's reach more farmers. Now let's look at what to do after you experience flood. First and foremost, if there are dead fish, remove them. Don't let them decay and decompose to add more problems for you. Second, test your water quality after the flood to ensure that the water quality is still intact. Thirdly, reduce your feeding until the water is stabilized or the fish are stabilized before you proceed with feeding, because the feed can also give you water problems. Fifthly, what you also do is that monitor to see where there's disease outbreak or where there's strange behavior of the fish. If that happens, then you try to provide solution. The sixth thing you should do is that try to ensure the fish are free from predators or they are free from wild fish, and try to also count to know how many fish are left in your pond. If you do all this, you'll be sure that your fish are healthy. Repair your embankment. If you notice that the fish banks are weaker or they have gotten weaker, then repair that and make them strong again.